All right, y'all, we're recording. So today's ultimate goal is to get you way more comfortable with using Git. And I need to go ahead and open a brand new window because we're not going to do this here. And so the idea is, number one, to walk you through a lot of stuff, but I don't want this just to be me talking at you. I'd love it if you go ahead and do these things with me. And so we're not really going to do any real coding. The ultimate idea is to get you very comfortable with working in a project, especially something maybe you're not familiar with, and working in a kind of professional flow with that. All right. So the one thing that I'm going to ask everybody essentially is to just create a brand new folder wherever you want to create it, that, you know, as long as you can essentially get access to it. And trust author, whoops. And we're going to create a new folder here, and we'll call this test. And so we're just having no files in here, just completely blank, right? And so I give y'all a moment to start up your editors. I don't know if you have your editor set up to have a terminal or Git in there. We can kind of go through that real fast. And so let me go here, and you would do terminal, create new terminal. And so if you open your VS Code, you can see the option up here at the top, or if you're on Windows, you may have to look under file or something like that, but you can do terminal and you can press new terminal, right? It will have your terminal there at the bottom automatically. And so if you're in Windows, I believe it, like the default is to set it to PowerShell. You can switch that if you have, does everyone have Git already installed? I should ask that prerequisite. I see one thumbs up. I see a bunch of cameras off, so I have no clue. If you could let me in the chat know if you have Git already installed, otherwise I can share the link with you to have Git, for you to download Git real fast. Yep. If you don't, it's super simple. Just Google Git download, and it's like one of the first links. I believe the website is like git-scm.com or .org, something along those lines. All right, cool. And so you can have your terminal basically set up inside of VS Code if you want to have it that way. I think for simplicity's sake, you can do that, or you can just automatically use it from if you're on a Mac, for example, you can use a terminal, or you can use Git Bash as external, and we can use, so all that good stuff there. But basically, the idea here is we have an empty folder. We haven't done anything to it yet. And so one of the things that we're going to do is we're just going to create a blank file. Let's just go ahead and call this an index.html file, right? So we have a blank file, nothing in it. And what we're doing now is, I'm very big on like Emmet shortcuts. So I'm going to kind of walk you through a couple little handy dandy shortcuts that you may have access to. You can just press exclamation point and enter, and you can get all this boilerplate text for HTML, right? We don't need to type anything. It can be completely blank. And we're just going to go ahead and save that, right? We have a file in here now. All right, we're admitting. We have a file in here. I got to hide these controls again. So we have a file in here, but we have nothing really going on. So what we can do, the first thing you're supposed to do anytime you have a brand new project on Git is we have to initialize it. So we do Git init. We're initializing the folder that we're doing to start accepting these Git commands, to start tracking things so that we can kind of push it up, right? So when we Git init, we see this now, initialized empty Git repository in the location that it's in. Now we see this number here, it's our source control. And this is the particular reason why I'm using VS Code. So if you've never done things like this or not used to this, it can kind of get you understanding where some of these changes are. So if we look in source control, we see something there and it's showing changes, right? Now, for me, one of my favorite things to do is whenever I've made a change, I want to see what files may have been affected on that, right? So we have this command here called git status. When we use git status, we see no commits on this. We're on our main branch, and we have a file here. It's untracked, meaning any changes that are made in here, it's not in a repo. Git basically doesn't know what's happening here. We haven't added this to anything, okay? So we have this file here. So there's a couple things that you can be doing here. And basically when it's in red, it means these are changes that haven't been added as of yet. So if we go ahead and we add it means we're adding it with the intention of committing this. And by committing it, we're going to share it to our repo for a code review. We want to put it on the main branch, et cetera, right? So as of right now, we've gone over Git init, initializing the repo to start it up, Git status to basically see what's the status of all our changes. And from here, we were going to go to Git add. Now there's a couple ways that you can do this. Since we only have one file, we can do git add period, and that's going to add anything that's untracked, unchanged, basically not added in there. So now if I do my git status again, we have a new file because it's brand new created. It's not in our repo or not anywhere else. And it's now green, meaning it's successfully been added to the commit that we're going to be creating. Now, before we go any further, I think it's really important, and hopefully you're following along and doing this as I do it. So I've kind of been reiterating these commands just to make sure, like, if you've missed a couple seconds, you can see this. And by the way, like, this font is pretty big on my side, but is it big on yours? Should I make it a little bit bigger? If you're shaking your head, we'll just do it to be safe. So we'll go ahead and make it slightly bigger. Cool, cool, cool. That way it's easy for everybody to see. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to open up our GitHubs, right? How do I do this? Okay. So I'm on my work computer. So let me actually move this here just in case. And so, cool. So we're on our GitHubs. And the first thing that we're going to do, just hit new so we can create a brand new repository. And so we have the owner name, and we're going to name this Git test, whatever you want to name it. I'm just naming it something random. And you can add your description, right? It's optional, but I like adding it. Part of a Git demo. We want to make it public. You can add a README file. We're going to do that manually, so you don't need to do that at the moment. And we just create our repository. And now we see all these commands, right? And these commands are basically walking you through to essentially start setting up your very first push to your brand new empty repo. Does everybody understand what the concept of a repo is? Essentially, the idea that I like to use, especially when we're teaching at like a boot camp, I want you to imagine like a bank safety deposit box, right? Anything you put in that bank safety deposit box, you can access it at any time with your bank credentials, but whatever you've put in there, it's completely safe, it's protected, and you only have access to it because someone walks you into that bank safety deposit box and lets you open it, right? It's essentially like a code review. They're checking your credentials, they're making sure everything matches up, they're checking your code before they accept it into your repo. And so anything that's in your main branch of your repo, for example, whoops, my Teams is still on. Go ahead and close that off. See, I normally have my do not disturb notifications on, but because I wiped my computer today, everything is undone. Fun times. All right. So basically, everything on the main branch is going to be the source of truth when it comes to code, right? And the ultimate idea is, and I'm going to reiterate this, you should never be pushing to main directly. The reason why is if you have any mistakes in your code, we all make mistakes, right? We're all human. That's why professional work environments, you have your QA, you have PO review, everybody's checking all these checks and measures to ensure that your code is correct before it's merged in the final main branch, right? You're not gonna have, don't get me started on Teams. I even made a tweet about it literally the other day, and some people got upset about it, some people loved it, but yeah, I'm not the biggest fan, but they get the people that sign my page are put it as the tool to use. So, but regardless, the ultimate idea is before it goes into the main branch, it is protected. And for y'all, especially we're going to be working on separate branches, which we'll explain in a second. But the idea is you can make all the changes you want on your branch before it's pushed into main, because basically your branch will only be pushed to main when someone verifies that your code is actually correct, it's not breaking anything, or it's not overwriting some code by accident, right? And especially with so many people working on the same project, it's almost imperative that you kind of stick to these practices a little bit. And once you move into a professional working environment, this is going to be all day, every day what you're doing. You're never, ever going to be, I can only think of maybe a handful of situations at best where you would ever be working on the main branch directly. And especially as a junior developer, it's almost never going to happen. So they're going to definitely put you under a lot of protection and scrutiny to ensure that you're not breaking production level code. So these are the habits you need to start building up now before you even enter that work environment. So understanding how to move between branches and things like that, it's going to be very, very important. So hopefully by now, because I ran my mouth for a little bit, you've gotten on GitHub, you've logged in, you've created your empty repo, and right now we have all these empty commands here. And so as of right now, you see we initialized our folder already. We've already added something. Now we're at the stage where we commit something, right? Now, sometimes when you see people like, for example, this thing here, first commit, right? It's kind of, I don't want to say it's a bad practice, but it is a bad practice. You want your commit messages to be very detailed. And I'm not saying you need to write an essay over here, but the more details you can add, the better. The reason why is, let's say 6 months from now, something breaks on the feature that you are working on. Having some of those keywords that you worked on in that commit message makes it really easy to find it when you start looking through the Git logs and the history. So sometimes it's imperative that you add that. So we're going to go over what a commit message may look like if you're working in a professional environment. So what you would type in here is git commit, right? We're following the same thing here. And so then we add this -m, right? Where's my VS Code? So we're adding -m. And now we're adding what it is that we did. So theoretically, for our very first task that we're sending in the repo, we could almost call this a feature, right? Or a chore. You would always add something like, this is a feature that I'm working on. It's a bug fix. It's a chore, whatever it may be. But in this situation, this would be considered like a feature. It's a brand new thing that we're sending in here. And we would say, create, work on, let's say, index page. And then we would add here like a parentheses. And the parentheses here would represent the ticket that we're working on, because especially in a professional environment, and some of y'all I know are working on Jira boards, some are on Kanban boards. I know you're all using something kind of different between teams, but each ticket has a ticket number, right? And it's a reference to say, hey, this task was worked on XYZ. So every company has like different ways that they name these. Let's just call it, for argument's sake, web-1. So it's the first ticket in this thing. Now notice here how all of this is in quotation marks. The quotation marks is dictating this is what the commit message will entail. So going over this, we have the fact that I've worked on a feature. I have my colon. I have the message here on what I did, the task that I did, and my ticket number that I've worked on. And then I'll press enter, it's created. Now, if I go here, we notice here in the source control, everything's disappeared. The reason why, right, is because the commit is ready to be pushed out. It's ready to go at this point. So I need to send it to the repo. So going back here, we have this command here, git branch, capital M, main, because nowadays it's pretty common practice to work on a main branch, depending on your organization. Some still call it master, but for the most part, everybody's migrating towards main. So you can call it git main. So we renamed it to main branch. And then from here, we're adding our remote origin, which is the URL to the project. Did my keyboard just turn off? What is happening? It did. What just happened? Laptop today. Up here. Da, 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 da. And so from here, command copy, command paste. So we have our remote origin now. Why is this not working? Does that work? There we go. We're back. I don't know what just happened, but all right. So where we stop from the origin, and now the only thing left is to actually push these changes that we created to the repo. So if we go back here, you can see we have git push -u origin main. All right. So git push -u origin main. Allow. And it's pushed. And now we go back to our repo. It still looks the same. We refresh the page and we now see the file that we just pushed up. We see our commit message there. And if we open it up, we'll see the text. And we see who it was pushed up by. Shows my work email, which is funny. But regardless, oh, I know why, because I set my global config. But regardless, that's where it's showing, right? Now, just to refresh, we went over a couple commands, right? And if you go through VS Code, for example, if you just press the up button, you can kind of see the last things that you typed, right? So we went over Git init, initializing the repo. We went over Git status to see changes. We added our changes to our potential commit. We checked the status again to see the green symbol. We committed our message. We created the branch of main, renaming it to main. And as you can see here, because I show my Git branches, you can see that we're on the main branch as we speak. We added our remote origin and we pushed the main to the repo. Any questions about what we've done so far before we jump into amping it up a little bit? I just make sure you only hit, yeah, you only have to do it once. I mean, you only do it at the very beginning of a project ever. When I do Git branch, I don't get a response. Well, we haven't done Git branch as of yet. So what's an example of a commit message? One earlier that I did today. So I did, for example, I did this. So git commit -m fix cart page plugin, and then I wrote cart page plugin PayPal extension. So something along these lines, right? And then I put the ticket number. We'll just put ticket -1 and that. So now if anybody is working on, let's say, the cart page or the plugin for PayPal, then they know, hey, this was something that I worked on. There's a ticket number, et cetera, et cetera. But the real cool thing here is right here in your VS Code, you have extensions. One of my favorite extensions is Git Lens. And the reason why is if I click here, oh, I have to make a change first. Never mind. We'll be doing something very shortly after the branches, and you'll see something really cool. Personally, I find the Git command line is the best way to work with Git. Git desktop and VS Code are nice sometimes, but command line gives full control. I agree. Git Lens is fantastic. I'm a big fan of Git Lens as well. Plus adding Jira issue ID. Yes, I have to start using it. You'd need to give a name to the branch as an argument. Git branch, yes. Is it common practice to use Git command? Somewhere read folks. Oh, see, I'm reading this backwards. I apologize. I should have scrolled up before I started reading because I'm reading everything backwards. But yeah, we're going to go over branches in a second as of right now, actually. So let's say you got a new ticket, right? So our repo is up. We've got our changes there. Everything is working. And now I'm like, okay, I need to start working on this, right? So the first thing that I want to do is ensure that all my changes are up to date. So I would do git pull origin main, right? I'm on the main branch just in case, let's say somebody was working on something yesterday. I want to have the most recent changes on my computer. So git pull origin main, it tells me I'm already up to date, obviously, because we only made one change. But now let's say I'm going to be working on a task. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do git checkout -b, and we're going to name our new branch. So with the first ticket that we pushed up, the commit being on ticket web-1, we're going to make this branch name web-2. So that would be the order of the tickets, right? So now you can see I am now no longer on main, I'm on web-2. That means anything that I make changes on, it's going to be secluded to this branch. Refusing to merge unrelated histories. I think you might already have a merge conflict. We can go over that in a moment. Have you just been following this? Oh, then you want to share your screen real fast so we can kind of go over it? This could be interesting for all of us. Hey, let's allow him to share his screen if we can. Or do I have that option? I don't think so. Has to start video. Yeah, I don't have an option to make him share. Scott, are you still there? He is not. He's walked away. We did not create a README as of yet. So I'm going to ask Josh to unmute himself.
Hello.
And we can have him start sharing. Allow to record, allow to multi-pin, put in the waiting room. If I stop sharing, admit Eric Hunter. It doesn't give me an option. Oh, Yeah, Josh, did you create a README file?
Yeah.
Okay. So your README, so yeah, if you do, for example, git pull origin main, what happens?
Yeah, the same. Fatal, refusing to merge unrelated histories.
So I need to see his screen, but Scott's not here. And I don't have the ability. Let me see if I stop sharing. And then does it give me the option that how view share it?
I can change the security
Yeah, if you can give him the like the option to share.
there.
Yeah,
I
Josh, go
just
for it
gave,
now.
yeah,
Share desktop too. I think I have to open my system preferences. All right, I have to quit and reopen.
All right, go for it. We have a couple questions that have been here in the meantime. Is git pull origin main the same thing as git pull? Kind of, but for me, I like to specify wherever I'm pulling something from. And so, for example, if I'm on the main branch, I want to make sure that I'm pulling from the main branch. And the other thing too is once, for example, I'm in another branch and I've already pulled in the fresh changes from main, and maybe I want to rebase it, which is a more advanced thing that we're going to get into in a bit. I want to make sure that I'm pulling in like remote origins and things like that. Admitting Josh. So I like to specify, everybody's different, but I like specificity because I want to know exactly what's happening. There we go. All right. So you have a README file. Oh, what just changed? Okay. So all right. So you tried to push and yeah, because you don't have the README file locally. So before you push, you git pull origin main, refusing to merge unrelated histories. So that means you have a merge conflict. I'm trying to see, can you make your font bigger? Because even I'm squinting. If you just do a command plus while clicking on that. There you go. All right. So what are these? And I think anybody should have the ability to unmute themselves now, right? Oh, I still have to ask.
yeah, everybody has the ability right now to mute
Yeah.
themselves.
So if anybody wants to chime in, because I see the chat going on, but I can't look at both.
So I run across this. It's really pretty straightforward. If he'll do a git pull and then resolve the merge issues,
Well,
then
I
he'll be
think,
able to go through the process again of adding
yeah.
it and committing it,
So
and pushing it.
that what I was about to say too is if you click on your the top left icon of your area, like the 2 pages, top left, all the way at the top corner near the X, yeah. Click on, I want underneath that. You see the 2 pages? Yeah, click that. Oh, you built this inside of an already existing project. Yeah, you wanna, yeah. That's why I was saying I want to see the folder
fine.
structure. I think what you need to do here is create like a completely blank project outside of this, because this you're building this on top of an already existing project. So you want to go to like file, new, like and open folder. Go to like your desktop, for example. And so you're in, so now go into DSD Git. Now open that. Yeah. Don't save. Now go to terminal. At the very top in next to run. Oh, okay. And so now let's do a git status. Okay. So now we can do a git add. Oh, no, before you git add, let's do a git pull or origin master. I mean, origin main. All right. So now go to your source. the squiggly line with the 1 on it on the left side. And now click on that. And now it shows the changes. Yeah, yeah, pull failed. I'm wondering, I'm not used to a pull. Did you set the origin, like the Git remote add origin? Press the up button. Press it again. No. I think that's the reason here. Go back to, yeah, you need the link to your repo. Yeah, you didn't set the origin. Well, he doesn't have, he can't, yeah. Remote origin already exists. So let's debug this. Yeah. So Mike says use -- allow unrelated histories flag. Try and use that command and see what happens. Yeah, I haven't seen pulls fail before. Just copy and paste that command. Oh, do I have to still give people permission to unmute?
Have I been muted?
Yeah, you've been muted this whole time.
Oh, I've been talking to myself. No such file directory.
No, the whole command that he just put in there, copy that whole thing. Do you see the chat?
Yeah, it's just not copying histories flag. See, there we go. Yeah, I won't copy. Let me just type it.
This is why I love Git.
Sorry, guys.
No,
If you
don't do
just
this.
highlight
Not
it
just
and
the
do
flag.
command, if you
Not
just
just the
highlight
flag,
Command
you
C
need
would
to do the full
now,
command.
yeah, it wouldn't work.
You need to do git pull origin main and then the flag.
yeah.
Oh my God. Typo. For whatever reason, I cannot copy in that chat.
I'll send it to you.
Just
on-
saying.
Press up key and go all the way to the beginning and type in git pull. No. Press the up key just one time.
There. Nope, up one.
Nope. Go all the way down. Press all the way down now. You've gone way too far up. Yep. All the way down right there. Yep. And now scroll all the way to the left.
Add the git pull origin main.
Yep.
Yes, please.
Right there. Whoa.
Oh,
No.
did I mistype it?
Allow unrelated histories.
It should allow it.
Try one thing, even though I hate doing this. Do git pull -f origin main.
Oh, that ain't gonna do it.
You don't think so? Forcing?
Let me try.
Refusing to merge unrelated.
All right, here, I'm gonna give you a bunch of voodoo.
This is, I don't know what he did.
Ooh.
We only did 5 things, man.
I know.
Okay, yeah, do git stash, which is something, yeah, do git reset head.
With a
Head
tilde.
being capital. And then the tilde, which is above the tab. Yeah.
Ambiguous argument.
You know what? I think I don't know what you did. I'm not. I swear I've never seen something like this. Create a brand new folder and a brand new repo. Like that's gonna save us all time, and just
Alright,
follow everything exactly. Don't create the README file. Keep it blank and start from scratch. Yeah, flamethrower time. Yeah, I don't know. I've never seen.
New repo.
Well,
then.
I think this time don't because you've already created the repo and you've created a README, clone it instead of doing a git init. Because the repo already exists, so you're probably gonna want to.
Just do a whole
It
new
doesn't
one,
really
delete the
matter, but
other.
you could clone it. Yeah.
Just name it anything random because we're just doing this for a demo. Yeah, git test, fine. And just don't add the README.
Don't. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
create the repo. And we're going to go through all these exactly the way it is. So you don't need to do the git init.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and do,
Well, you need to if you're doing a new folder, but
yeah, create a brand new folder. Like go to file, go to open folder, go to new folder.
Oh,
How'd
new
you,
folder in here.
no, go back. Let's, I want everything fresh. You're doing this in iCloud though. Just put it on your
It's
local environment. Go to desktop. Yeah. That's your iCloud desktop versus regular desktop. I'm trying to remove all variables just in case. So if you go to regular
just how
desktop,
I
it
got
still
it
takes
set
you.
up.
Hold
Yeah,
on. All right, go ahead.
it's just
and
all
create a new folder
connected.
there. And just name it whatever, git test, one word. Oh, create. All right, and now open. Everything is fresh. Create a new file, index.html. Save, exclamation mark, enter, save. Go to terminal. Press git init. All right, git status. Git add and space period. Git commit -m. Space, quotation marks. And we'll call this feature, FEAT, colon, creation of repo. And then we could just close it for now. And then press enter. All right, now go back to your GitHub page. Copy that git remote. Oh, well, let's name it main branch. So go do git branch -m on your terminal. Dash capital M. And then space main, enter. All right, and now do git remote. Copy that whole line. Don't even type it, just copy it so we don't make any mistakes.
Where at?
If you look on your Git repo,
Oh, right here.
yeah. Copy that. Delete everything. And now we'll do git push -u origin main. All right, now let's refresh your Git page. Let's go.
Oh, sorry about that.
It's all good.
So I think the README file was the deal then.
Yeah, I mean, it was basically different than what you had. I don't know.
That's the only thing different that I did that time. I
Yeah.
added the README the first time.
But regardless, we figured it out. We got back on track. So let's knock this out. So to recap, one of the last things that we did, if you remember, after going over those commands, which we just went over again, which was useful because I think somebody else came in the room at that point, was we created a new branch. And so in the situation here, as our first ticket was web-1, normally tickets go in an ascending order. So we're now on ticket web-2. Anything that I do on my branch will not change what happens on the main branch until it is accepted through a code review. So I can make whatever changes I want and the main branch is still protected. So we're going to go ahead and add a couple files here. So we'll go ahead and add a style.css page, and we can, just put something generic here for the moment. We can call, I don't know, div, and we'll call it color red, just for now, right? Just something simple. And then we'll add a app.js page, and we will not put anything there for the moment. Actually, we'll just put, we'll just do a comment or something, right? All right. So we just have some generic stuff here, but now we have 3 files in total. And we see here, we have 2 files that are changed. I didn't change anything on our index page. But now, as you see, since I'm on a different branch, my Git lens has finally kicked in, and you can see it's showing me the last person to make a change on this page, when that change was made, which was 23 minutes ago, and the commit that it was sent to. So if I'm working on a feature, I'm working on something down the road, and I'm like, who did this? What was the purpose of this? I can now have all the information that I need. And with this information of the ticket, I can go look up that ticket and say, okay, this was the logic, or this was the reasoning why they did X, Y, Z. And so I can either go back to the developer and say, hey, can we kind of sync up for a couple minutes to kind of get that? It is an extension called Git Lens. GIT lens. And you see I have a couple things installed here, but this is definitely like one of my go-to things. Like this is a brand new install, and this was like one of the first things that I did install because I like having this as a tool. And especially when you're talking about larger code bases, super important. So Git Lens makes it super easy for anyone to kind of figure out what's happening and things like that, and kind of keep you in sync. And now, so like, if I were to make changes here, which I'm going to do now, and so we'll add a div and we'll say hello, just something simple. I now see there are 3 changes here versus the 2 that we saw initially for the 2 files. So now if I do a git status, it shows me my index.html file is modified because we made a change to it, right? We already know this file exists in our repo and our Git history, like that file is known. What's not known, these untracked files, are the 2 new files that we created. So if I go to the repo, of course, they don't exist. Nobody knows about it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so now what we're going to do here is we're going to add all these files. Now, just to kind of let you know, the git add -period adds everything here. If you want to add only one of these files, we want to specify, we would, instead of doing -period, we'd add the file name instead, so that way it specifies which file it may be. Now, if I go to git status, we now see all the files are there, and it specifies this is a brand new file that doesn't exist in this project as of yet. So is this, and this one has been modified. So, whoops. And so now I'm going to create my Git message. So now we are working on a feature, styling, style sheet, and JavaScript. Creation. And then we put our ticket number there, the -2. And now it shows 3 files changed, 7 insertions, et cetera, et cetera. It created the modes for these. And so now if I do my git status, nothing is there, nothing to commit, everything is clean, which means my commit is ready to go up. So now I'm not going to do origin main, because remember, we're not pushing this to main, we're on a different branch. Our branch right here, web-2. So I'm going to push origin web-2. And so now I go up here, go to my GitHub, and now so we see this new message that wasn't there before. It just came up right now, less than a minute ago. Web-2 had some recent pushes. Now I'm in my main branch. I don't see any of those changes. So now I'm going to compare and pull request. So here I have my commit message. And here I would have any additional comments, the ticket number, whatever it may be, I add that in here to add additional context, right? So for example, at my company, we have a little sheet that we have kind of written out here where it's like, does this require any extra testing? Did you write integration tests for this? All these checks and measures to make sure that you wrote something additionally as a safety precaution and how that would, work out, et cetera, like extra details. And so here we'll say added, created style JavaScript. And so we'll compare the pull request. And so now, Mike is funny. Yeah, I like that. And to be honest, I've had commit messages like that before, no clue why. But here we see now our pull request. Our pull request has our commit message here. It has the ticket number there. I want to merge this into main from this branch, web-2. It now has the additional information that I provided. I would have somebody else, but since I'm the only person in this repo right now, it's me. I would have somebody else review this now. And so they would review my commits. So they see my commit here and they see the files that are changed. This is what that looks like. So here they see on the JavaScript file, I added comment for test, which would immediately be flagged. Why am I adding empty comment? But for the sake here, it's very simplistic. I added an empty div, which is definitely not something you want to do, but regardless. And then I added some styling. They can see these changes. So if they see that, like, oh, I really like this, this is good. This pull request is created, right? Going back to our main code base, I only still see the index.html. Even though we created the code request, the code review and the pull request, until it's been accepted, it is not there. Now, as I've merged this, it's asking me to reconfirm, do I want to merge? I would merge it, or I would start comment saying, hey, this is not good, this is not that. I want to delete this branch now. Well, it depends on the team, but I would say for simplicity's sake, delete it after it's been merged. And now when I go back, all these things are here. And it has the last commit message that went with it. Yes, I advocate for that. Some people, like, I worked in my last org, it was a dual branching strategy, unfortunately. So staging was in one area and a dev environment was another area. And then after it was approved there, then you had to create a new code review for main branch. It was headache and for deployments. So we had to do that. But if you're not doing that, which you're not, just delete it. It's going to be safer. And so now all that's there. Now we had a couple mistakes. We had a couple call outs. Person doing code review didn't realize it. We got to fix those mistakes because right now, even though that this is here, our app is broke. Something's not right. I'm still on my Web 2 branch. I want to get the most recent changes. So first I'm going to go back. So right now we're getting in the habit of switching between branches, right? So I want to git checkout. And if you remember when I created this branch, I used the -b and I put the branch name there, right? -b allows you to create a new branch and that quote and the name creates that branch name. We have an existing branch of main already. I want to go back to main. So I just do git checkout main. And now I'm back on the main branch. Now, if I look at my files, even though that code review went through, I only have my one file here. And the reason why, I'm letting you think for a second before I say it. The reason why is I haven't pulled those changes locally. So in the repo, it's safe, it's secure, it's there, but locally it's not. So I want to pull those changes. So let's say for a second, you know, Amanda over here made those changes last night and I'm now working on this project. So I said, I need to have those changes locally before I can do anything. Otherwise, maybe I'm rewriting things that she did or I'm creating conflicts. So I'm going to do a git pull origin. And now we have all these changes here. And now if I look back here, I see these changes that I made 31 minutes ago. But I go here now and I see the recent changes with the new branch information there. So as you see, different lines have different changes because that's the time that it was committed. Does that make sense to everybody so far? Love it. That means I'm doing a great job. So, you know, round of applause for me. But now that we have that, we have a couple mistakes. We have a couple mistakes. Does anybody know what mistakes we have right now? They're simple mistakes. There's two very simple mistakes here. So we created a style sheet. That's a good one. We created a style sheet. We created a JavaScript file, but we haven't connected it to our index.html page. So we need to connect those things. And so there's a couple ways that we can do this. Now, if you're using JavaScript, it's important that you add your script source after the body. You don't need it to run before the body because then you can get into some issues. And we need to go ahead and add that file there. And we need to add our style sheet. So we're going to add our style. How do we add style sheets in CSS again? No. I haven't done this in a while. I forgot. What was the command? Link. Thank you. Link.css. And we named it style.css. So that works perfectly. And so now we have that. Yeah, I forgot all about it. It's been a while since I've did this. So we'll go ahead and now check our Git status. We have that change there. So this mistake, obviously, when it went to QA or whatever it may be, it would have set off some flags. Where did everybody go? Here it is. Why does that disappear randomly? Okay, so in this situation, we need to go, obviously, we don't want to make these changes on main branch, right? So we need to create a new branch. So git checkout -b. And our new ticket would be web-3 because it's a brand new ticket. So that's our branch that we're on. And I do git status again. All those changes just came with me, right? Because I didn't add it or commit it to that main branch. So I'm going to do git add, git commit -m. And now instead of feature, this is a fix because I created a bug. So we're fixing that bug and we're adding the comments in here. Link, style sheet, and JavaScript file to index. Web-2. And so now when I check here, my source control disappeared. Everything looks good. I do my git status. Everything is clean. So we are going to push git push origin web-3. So we go back here. This new thing popped up. Recent pushes less than a minute ago. We're going to create our merge request or pull request on GitHub. We're just going to, you already know what to do as far as that, but make sure our base branch is selected and we're comparing it with this branch. Now, obviously we only see 1 and 1 here at the moment, but with multiple people working on this, you may have a couple branches. So make sure and ensure that you're merging this into the main branch and that you've selected your correct branch every single time. Normally it's automatically set, but do yourself a favor and double check it before you create a bigger headache. Create your pull request. We see our commit, we see our files changed, and now you can see here, this line was added, this line was added, nothing else was altered in that process, okay? Merge the pull request, I confirm that everything looks good. I'm deleting my branch. I go back to my code, and now this commit message is the same, this one is the same, this one is different because that was the only file that was affected in that last push. Any questions on this? Pull at the start of the day, yeah. Pull whenever you want to create a new branch. Yeah, my rule of thumb is I pull at the start of the day and I pull after lunch every single day. And if I'm doing an end of the day push, I may do a pull right before that just to make sure everything is up to date before I push it through. Yeah, I'm pulling usually multiple times a day, unless I'm working on like a big ticket where I know I'm not going to get a commit out that day. Then I'll say, you know what, I'll go ahead and just hold off until tomorrow since I know I'm not pushing anything. But I always try to make sure I at least pull before pushing out for that fresh situation. All right. So as of right now, we've kind of covered these. Now, let's say, for example, right, I'm going to have a couple lines here. And now you can see here through my source control, I have a change. Let's say for whatever reason, there's going to be multiple use cases. I have this change here, but you know what? I don't want to do anything to it right now. I kind of want to stash it to the side and make sure that's unaffected. So you can use one of my favorite commands, Git Stash. And you notice here, everything kind of went back to the way it was. My source control shows nothing is there. So it's stashed to the side. So I can make whatever changes I need to. Maybe I have a merge conflict that I want to resolve and I don't want to affect my changes that I had there. I can stash it. Now that I stashed it, I deal with the conflict, come back, and now I can bring it back by doing git stash pop, and everything is back to the way it just was a second ago. Really useful command, really helpful. It comes in clutch quite often, actually. I've used it more times than I can count. It's important to know, though, like if you start like git stashing a lot of things, because we all end up forgetting it, don't be surprised if you go looking back for a specific stash that things may be on top of it, and now you got to deal with all those headaches as well. So just kind of giving you that aspect here. I think that kind of covers pretty much everything that I think you're going to be utilizing. Is there any questions as of yet? think that means I did a good job. All right. So with that said, I think that's going to cover everything that you're going to be running into, especially in this cohort. I think the biggest thing is just making sure that you're very clear on the changes. You're going through the code reviews specifically. Please don't just do a thing where it's like, oh, I just checked out. And matter of fact, we could do that real fast, actually. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to create a new branch real fast. Git checkout -b. Actually, before I do that, main. So here's a perfect situation, right? I want to go check out main. I can't check it out because I have these changes, but I don't want to add it to the branch that I'm on. So I can stash it real fast, go back to original, git checkout main. I go back to the main, git stash pop, and now it's back. And that allowed me to kind of circumvent that situation. But instead of doing that, I'm just going to revert this for a moment. And so we're going to git pull origin main. And so we have a fresh pull there. And so right now I'm going to go ahead and do git checkout -b web -4, create a new branch. I'll make some changes here on this file. Git status, git add, git commit -m test. We'll just put test there for now, because what I'm trying to do here is create a conflict so we can kind of go over that together. So we're going to do git push origin web -4. And so from here, I'll go there. And so now let me go back to main. And I'm going to do this status. And matter of fact, before I do that, let me create this pull request real fast. So that's there. And so now status add commit -m creating push origin main. And so now that's pushed. And so now we see this branch has conflicts that must be resolved, right? This is probably going to happen to you at some point. I'm glad I just thought about this, because you're going to have multiple people pushing things, changing things, maybe even changing the file that you're working on. Conflicts are going to happen. Nobody loves dealing with it. One way to avoid that, honestly, is frequent pulls. So that's why you find devs pulling so much to kind of avoid this headache. But we have these conflicts, right? So, okay. Should be, wait, what? Should you pull main into other branches? So you can do something in situations like rebasing, which is a little advanced. We're kind of going over conflicts right now. We'll see if we have to, but GitHub provides like some examples. So if you were to have some conflicts, you are going to be following this essentially to kind of clear out these conflicts and resolve them, right? So number one, we need to switch to the branch that has the conflict. So git checkout web, I think I called it 4, right? So web -4. And so now what we're going to do, following these instructions, so we're going to pull origin main and we're going to merge main. So we've already pulled it. And so we're going to do git pull, git merge main. And so now this is the situation that kind of happened in one of the teams. It's asking me, what changes do I want? Do I want to accept the current change, which is the file that I have, or the incoming change, which means this was the other ticket that kind of went through. And so especially if you're working on a team, and if it's a small change, you can kind of figure out what the solution was. But sometimes if you're working with like 50 lines of code, oftentimes what I do is I like to be safe than sorry. I jump on a quick Teams call or Zoom call with the dev that did the change, just to be like, can you tell me which one was the right solution? Because I'm not going to go through 50 or 100 lines of code making sure we've got every single line, especially because this is only one line, but sometimes you have like 4 or 5 different sections where it's like incoming change, current change, etc. And you want to make sure that you're getting it right. What you don't want to do is accept both changes. And I believe somebody did this at one of the other teams. And so they accepted both, or what they did was try to erase this manually and just left it there. So what we're going to do here is we know this is the change because they created the conflict. We know this is the change that they want. So we're going to accept the incoming change. And now if we see that, we'll save this. And now we have our Git status here. We can add it. Now Git status again. We see that it's been modified. And now we will go ahead and commit this, bringing branch up to date. And we will push web-4. Now go back here, refresh the page, and everything is looking good again. That's how you would deal with the conflict. How do people feel about that? Perfect. And so now I merge it, confirm it, delete the branch, go back to my code, and now we'll see our message there that we created a conflict, everything else was unaffected from that, and we have all those changes there. Everybody feel good about this? I try to make this as easily understandable as possible while also making sure that you're getting some strong value out of this. Also, one thing that I'll say is most of us are pretty much watching these cohort channels as much as possible. Your leads, by the way, I have to commend a lot of leads. I've seen them going above and beyond, not just doing the 30 minutes that we asked, but they've actively been on the Discord. Please give a big ups to your leads, sincerely. Like, I genuinely mean that. They've gone well above and beyond what we asked. I think, especially in the beginning, we're all kind of rooting for you and wanting to make sure that you're doing well. So we're kind of just making sure like things start off at an easy pace. But we're all kind of monitoring. So if you have like Git issues or you have some kind of issue, maybe be mindful of the time. Like, I'll be honest, I want to help y'all, but if you message me at 10 p.m., I'm not jumping on a call. But you know, if you message me a little bit early in the day, that may happen if I got the opening in time. But just kind of share it in the team channel. But if you have a specific problem and you're not getting an answer right away, even try the cohort channel itself, because there's so many people there. You never know, maybe somebody will kind of jump on and help you out, or maybe be, you know, a wall that you can bounce ideas off of. But Git issues, yeah. We all get issues. I'm hoping that this will resolve some of the easier issues that you may run into, or at least if you start scratching your head because we recorded this, you can kind of revert back to this right away and kind of essentially like refresh your memory on what we did. But hopefully, I also have a video on this that you could check out just to refresh your mind on some of the what is it called? Commands that we did. I'm so tired, y'all. You have no idea. Some of the commands that we did. So that can be a refresher as well. And it's less than 30 minutes, so you can kind of skip through if you need to. But hopefully this could be like an easy way for you to start working on these projects. Especially, my biggest fear is the conflicts. Like, I've already seen one conflict not be resolved as easy as possible. So I know there's going to be more. And hopefully this can kind of guide you through it a little bit so it's not as scary. Because especially with my interns, when I had a bunch of interns working for me at my last company, not, you know, summer interns working for the summer, and we were definitely working on a lot of upskilling, but every single time they had a merge conflict, they would freak out. We'd walk through it together. I don't want you to freak out or feel intimidated by it. Even though it's like a weird situation, you can easily manage it. A couple times and you'll be a pro at it, but don't feel intimidated. If we need to, we'll jump on a call and kind of help you out. But I don't want you to freak out and be intimidated by what may be erased or not erased. And at the end of the day and the end of the world, we can always revert a branch, y'all. So like, if it comes down to it, we can revert it and go back to the previous state. And that's the best part about these repos. Be in the habit of working in your branch and pushing frequently. And the reason why I say that specifically is if you make a change, we can always go back a state. But if you make, let's say, 1,000-line change, and for whatever reason you decide you're going to delete that branch, you've lost everything because you didn't push it up. So, and I've seen that happen, especially in the boot camps. So don't do, if you made like 100 lines, push it up. At least you'll have it safe there where you can always revert back to it. But if you're doing like 500 lines or 1,000 lines locally and you haven't pushed it up, you're really playing with a dangerous situation at that point. All right, I know we got all these leads here. Anybody want to comment or say anything while we're here? I'll ask them to unmute if they want to. I think that's, yeah. If you want to unmute yourself, you can, and share whatever words you want to, or any ideas, or if there's something that I blatantly missed, please tell me. But I think I covered like all the bases on that.
Danny, I will add that this session was very helpful. I learned a lot.
There we go. Adding that to my resume. All right. So with that being said, oh, I missed this whole chat. I'm just staring at everybody. I'm like, oh, nobody's talking. Let's see here. There's a Git cheat sheet. Very cool. I did that last week. Nice. Yeah. Honestly, the small pushes make a big difference and people don't realize it, especially early on. When you get more senior, you can make those calls because you feel comfortable and you know what you're doing, or you pretend like you do. You know, we all do that too at times. But the big hope is you don't at least erase a bunch of stuff and then feel terrible. I'll tell you, my biggest regret in life, and I've talked about this a million times, my biggest regret was getting my first job in tech and not knowing how to utilize Git. My first week there, I was working on something with somebody else and I didn't push anything and somehow deleted all the changes that I had. Wasn't able to retrieve it, deleted a whole bunch of work. I felt like I was about to quit. I was freaking out. And that was my biggest regret. So don't do that, especially when somebody else has been working on it with you and taking the time to dedicate to you. You don't want to make sizable mistakes. And it was my mistake for not pushing it up. So it was a nightmare. I thought I was going to quit my first job in tech before I had my first paycheck. I was fuming and freaking out. And I was like, oh, they found this is how they're going to find out I'm a fraud, y'all. This is how they're going to find out I made a huge mistake. And I'm so grateful that my boss is like, what, you learned a valuable mistake early on. So keep at it. And some bosses are phenomenal like that. And they give you the opportunity to make a mistake. And as long as it's not costing the company like, you know, millions of dollars, I'm pretty confident they'll be reasonable about it. But I've yet to meet a professional developer at any degree that hasn't made a mistake that they regret or cringe at. But to be honest, that's the start of an amazing drinking story too. So no drinking story has been like my day went super smooth in production, no issues, no failed APIs, everything was smooth sailing. No. Some of the best ones start when we got a bunch of devs together at a meetup. Like, let me tell you how I crashed production this way. Or my favorite story was actually by a man. He works in a Ruby on Rails community, and he worked for a company and he sent out 2 million push notifications by complete accident. And he was like, I think the company's going to fire me. Lord knows how much money this cost. They're going to kill me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he told his team lead, and his team lead was, that's it. At least it wasn't the full 5. So he was pretty happy about that. And that was a great story. So you'll make mistakes, but hopefully we won't make any sizable mistakes over the next 6 weeks. Cool beans, y'all. All right, I'm done. I'm out. See y'all at the next one. Bye, y'all.
Thanks, Danny.